Hello, can you hear me? Because
Yes.
I have my AirPods in, but it's the first time I try it out.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah,
Lovely.
that works. Everything works.
Nice to meet you.
How are you? Nice to meet you.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm a little bit frazzled because just before we started, one of my lights just went out. I had to run around trying to find another
Okay.
light.
Okay, yeah.
Is that your studio
A lot
behind
of
you?
running around. Yeah, that's my home studio.
Yeah, it's very nice. Very nice.
Thanks.
Okay. Now, for someone listening, I'm talking to Roxanne Sauriol Hauenherm. How did I go with my pronunciation?
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, brilliant. Okay, well, I'm talking to Roxanne in Montreal, in Canada. And just to give you time context for our conversation, today is Wednesday, the 1st of March, 2023. Wow, 1st of March. Is that a shock to you?
1st of March, and I've been waiting for it to start. It's for winter to end because Canada's winters are brutal. But we still have about a month and a half to go before spring really starts settling in.
Yeah, right. I have
Yeah.
friends in Montreal, and yeah, the snow. And are you from there originally?
Yeah, born and raised.
Okay, but you're still not used to it.
You never get used to it. It's every winter is just like comes with its new challenges and yeah,
Yeah, are you the sort of person that gets out into the winter, or do you kind of hole up and wait for it to pass?
I hide. Like I used to like during the pandemic, I used to go every morning at like 4:30 a.m. go for a run because we were like just so bored that like we didn't want to have to deal with the night darkness basically because it gets dark at like 3:30 during the winter, so like we just wanted to exhaust ourselves basically ourselves to like be tired by like 6 to 7 and then go to bed and like just do a full day because everything was so boring during that time that like there was no way to entertain yourself really. So but yeah, that was the only time that I was actively going out during the winter and like go for like a 5 kilometer run every morning,
Wow.
which
In the
which
snow.
was crazy in the snow and ice and like everything. Yeah, it was a bit
Wow.
crazy. Yeah.
That's, well, good for you.
Yeah.
Now, for someone listening who hasn't seen your work, your paintings, how would you describe them?
Oh boy. Uh, well, okay. Technically, they're like mostly only women. They're mostly only one subject per painting, and I just basically try to make uh, what my 8 year old would like to see in a museum if I was to be in a museum when I was young. So basically, I just want to make like a bridge between what art is like as a in our like subconscious and what art is today, what art should be today kind of thing. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I think maybe I explained it all right. You tell me.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Did you say an 8 year old, not an 80-year old?
Eight,
Eight.
like
So
as a
child.
child. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Yeah, and just if you're listening, they're figurative and somewhat realistic, meaning it's not abstract or it's not very brushy. It's pretty
It's not, yeah, it's
clean.
not hyper realistic. It's not like academically accurate, really, because I haven't been to school. So everything I learned was like uh, self-taught basically. So I'm just trying my best to recreate the pictures I'm taking basically. So I never have someone sit like I never do like I never work from life basically. I take pictures of people that I know, but I work from a photo. So you could say it's photorealism, but yeah, I'm trying my best basically. That's how I would
Yeah,
describe it.
yeah, yeah. Now, we've had questions come in on the social media. So, Kasisa, yeah, Kasisa on Instagram says, "What artist or woman inspires you most?"
What artists or women in general?
Yeah,
Uh, Artists, I think my favorite, the only one that pops into mind is Christian Rex Van Minnen, which is he's doing some weird shit. He's just I don't know how he works, but he works from imagination. But and his things are not uh, reality based, but they somehow are just so realistic in nature. But that would be my first pick. And as for women, like as a hero or something, I would say the first one that
inspires you.
comes in mind, it would be Rihanna. Just uh, like as her, like the way she just lives her femininity, basically. That's, I find that if everybody lived their lives thinking about, oh, what would Rihanna do in that situation? Probably a lot of women would get out of trouble or just be able to navigate life a little bit easier. So that would be my two answers.
Did you say lives her community
I said, no, I didn't say that. I said for femininity.
or femininity? Oh, okay,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
right.
femininity. Sorry, I'm my first language is French, so sometimes you'll have weird words.
No, that's fine. That makes more sense.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Um, can you say the name of the other of that first artist again, just in case someone wants to look it up?
Yeah, it's Christian Rex Van Minnen. So
Okay.
he's on Instagram.
And
He's,
where is
he's
he?
very...
Is he in Canada or
No,
somewhere
I think
else?
he's from the United States. I'm not sure which
Okay.
state exactly, but he's from the States.
Right. And who are your favorite artists from the past, or who are your artistic heroes or your influences from the past?
I don't I don't really, as much as I love to dig into the past, I don't do it for a reason. Like I don't come from like a fan like perspective. It's more to explore what art means today that I refer to the past because I find that art in the past is taking the most space in our heads basically in terms of like what it should be like, what it should look like and everything. And that's why I'm trying to do the bridge between both. But I don't have one person or one artist I would refer to necessarily as for artists from the past. Not that I can think of instantly, at least.
Right. So what's your backstory? How did you come to be an artist? Like, where did it start for you, or what age were you kind of when it started?
So I was always interested in arts in general, like every arts, basically, music, sculpture, everything. I can like as soon as it gets creative, I sort of can handle my way to make it work. Um, but it really started when I had my daughter in 2008, and I was on maternity leave, and I was just bored, and I was like, let me try and paint. So then I started it, and I just basically decided I needed to get good at it, basically, because I was still waiting tables back then. I was a waitress, and but not during my maternity leave, but like that was the only thing I was really doing as like a job prospect. So that's when I really decided I need to get good at something, and this is where its root is basically.
Right. And I think you did a bit of art school. Am I right?
Yeah, I did about a year in Cégep. Here we have it's like a bridge between high school and university. And I didn't really like it. I found that it just touched too many subjects, and once we entered like how to Photoshop and everything, I got a little bit discouraged. I got annoyed, and and then so I switched programs and I went in fashion design. Same thing sort of happened. I really just wanted to learn how to paint, basically, or sculpt. Like sculpture is also like maybe I'll start actually at some point in my career. But no, I just found that like, and you didn't really have the choice to like pursue one thing. Let's say you couldn't just like uh, ask to learn only about or mostly about painting or color theory and everything. They just like throw you in there in the mix, and then you just had to somehow be good at everything. And I was just like, well, if it's going to be like that, I'd just rather learn by myself or take private classes or something. But, and then I got pregnant with my daughter. And so then I just decided to go my own route, route,
Right.
I think. Yeah.
So earlier on, like when you were younger, you weren't one of these people who was like, "Oh, when I, grow up, I'm going to be an artist, or I'm drawing all the time, drawing, painting." You weren't that kind of thing. It sounds like it came later, did it?
I had no idea really what I wanted to do. My mom did. My mom was like, oh, like by the time I was like 1 or 2, she was like, oh yeah, she's gonna be an artist. But
Ah,
like I just didn't give it any thought. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone, but like I wasn't giving my future a lot of thought, which is not the best move. It worked out for me, but I wouldn't recommend that at all. But yeah, I just basically, well, everything worked for in that sense. Like being an artist is a very lonely practice. You don't have a boss. You don't have, so it works for me. Like don't I don't like being told what to do. So for me, being in a work environment where I have a boss, I have someone telling me what to do, it's very, very difficult, very challenging. Uh, so so everything basically just pointed in this direction, and I just ended up deciding that I needed to be good at it so that I could build a future for myself and my daughter, basically.
right. Does that make sense to you now? Like that your mother, when you were one, said you were an artist. Like thinking about your own daughter, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, my mom is like a little bit of a witch, so like she knows things that like anyway, she's a weirdo, if I can put it that way. But yeah, I guess like it made sense because, as a mom, you know your kids like sometimes more than they know themselves. But yeah, I think my daughter will probably be in the art field as well. I think she's aware of that too, and I think she wants to also like she wants to go in my footsteps, basically. Not necessarily in visual arts, but just like in the arts in general.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Um, Okay, so how does the idea for a painting start for you? Like, how do you collect the ideas? Are you a sketchbook sort of person? Do you make little thumbnails? Do you write things down? Is it more text kind of based or voice memos? Or how do you capture those wispy bits of inspiration?
So, no, I don't sketch, which is the weird thing. If you give me a pen and a paper and you're asking me like to draw something, it will most likely suck. I'm not really a sketch person, but and writing, I mean, yeah, sometimes when I have ideas, I'll write them down in my notes, but it's not really part of the process. These ideas end up most likely never being done, actually. Um, no, I would say the process starts like first of all, like with my choice of models. And then from there, when I'm shooting, well, I have like a vague idea of what I want to do, sometimes a precise idea, but most of the time a little bit vague. And from there, it's like it's happening while I'm basically shooting. And then I'll just be like, okay, let's do that. And then I work with the photos, and then after that, I'll have a title coming, and then like the funnier it is, the better it is. Um, and yeah, so the process starts mostly when we're shooting,
Right. And it's
and I'll add
mostly,
up after.
yeah, and it sounds like it's mostly coming from the models,
Yeah, well, they give a lot of energy also when they just like, and then I end up like being able to read that energy somehow, and that's what I'm counting on basically when I'm shooting someone or when I want to paint someone is like to grasp as close as possible like the energy that like they give off basically.
yeah. And do you, when you go into the photo shoot, do you have lots of different clothing and props and that kind of thing and try lots of different things, or are you more, focused?
I have a lot of like I love doing this like everything that touches style uh and fashion and makeup and hair and everything. Like I'm very versatile in that sense where like I have an easy way of navigating in those waters. So I do have a lot of clothing and accessories and stuff just for myself, but also like I have like a bag that I keep where I keep like sheets of latex basically of like every color and stuff like that that I can just throw in to have a pop to add like a pop of color that I think would feel great or be nice. So yeah, I do put a lot of thought into styling basically because styling is really important in the end actually it can really transform like blend painting like make it great basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then when you are going through the photos that you've taken, do you composite them or do you just have one image and you go, oh, that's the one?
It's really rare that I'll use like two photos or like for one reference image, but like that's if like let's say uh sh like the pose is great, but like she was blinking. Like then I'll add the head and I'll do all that like on Photoshop. But I try to stay as close as possible as like the image is. So basically, I'll try to use only one photo and not to do like too many changes because the more changes on Photoshop you do, the least likely it will like look natural. So I
Yeah.
try to stay away from that.
And do you have the old paintings in your mind when you're doing the photo shoot? Like, in terms of pose?
Yeah, well, the thing is like I like to reference all my paintings from um like masters, so old masters. So like I'll have like a reference, like let's say it's like the Mona Lisa basically, and then I'll show that to the model, and then I'll say like try to just do the pose or like at least catch the spirit of that, and that's how we start basically. But it doesn't have to be exactly the same. Like I just want to basically grasp the energy of that painting and then like make it uh, modern,
Yeah.
contemporary.
And do you just have the one painting that you're experimenting with, or do you have a few that you try out with the model?
So sometimes I'll only have one because it's hard to source all these things and like get inspired by like many things at once. But like sometimes I'll have one shoot where I have like multiples images that I want to recreate. So then we'll do that. But like most of my shoots are basically just it's just one idea and then we're just gonna like photograph that basically. But yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. And when you're choosing the painting, does that come from, you're looking at the model and you're going, okay, I'm Mona Lisa or whatever. Is that
Hmm.
how that works?
Well, there's certain models like for certain paintings that are just like perfect for it. So let's say the one of the last ones I did was like um It's the Weeping Woman from Picasso, and like it's basically weird to have to cry on camera. So for that one particular one, I asked the model I asked was is actually an actress. So I was like, this is gonna be known territory for her, and that's gonna be perfect. And like she really delivered, and like it was great. So in that sense, yeah, I'll try to make the model and the reference work well together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Daniel Oliver in the UK says, I'd love to know how you come up with your reference images. Okay, you've mostly explained that, but is there anything else you'd like to say about it?
I I mostly just like scroll on Instagram, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I'll open a book or two, but like it's mostly from Instagram or the internet in general, because well, I mean, everything is there on there now and very, very accessible, and it's easy to just source inspiration from there. So yeah, that's how I do it. And I think like anything that makes me giggle or like that is a bit weird or like, wow, how would that translate with like today's aesthetics and anything that gives me a little bit of like excitement, I'll try and do it.
Yeah. So when you're saying scrolling on, you mean like you'll see old masterworks come up on your feed and they will set that kind
Yeah,
of thing in motion? Okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, social media is perfect for that kind of thing because you could see a
yeah,
masterwork and then you could see a ridiculous meme and then it's a cat typing on a computer and then it's another masterwork kind of thing.
absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so you got your reference photo. Do you do a color study or anything like that before you start?
I don't. I
Okay.
really just go. I don't. That's the thing about being self-taught. I haven't learned any of the ways that painters normally paint. So I just really go from the photo and then I just work my way like to make it as close as possible as the reference. Like that's really my process. And like I don't have that's the thing, like a lot of people are just like, oh, do you give tutorials and everything? I'm just like, I know nothing. I'm just like, don't ask me. I mean, like I'm if you want I would possibly maybe one day share like videos of my entire process because like there's so many people asking for that. But like I'm just like maybe don't listen to me, maybe it won't work for you. Like I'm not
That's
like trained.
that's so funny
Yeah,
though because I'd say 90% of the artists I talk to, um, they are very familiar with what color studies are, but they nearly all go, no, no, I don't. I know I should, but I don't. So you're exactly the same.
yeah,
It's rare that artists do, and if they do,
mm,
they're really into it and they get a lot out of it. But most are like,
yeah,
yeah, I used to do that, but I don't do it anymore. So your
yeah, yeah.
your answer is exactly the same. Um, okay, so you got your reference image. How does the drawing phase go? How do you get it onto the canvas?
Okay, so basically I used to work like directly with the photo, the tiny photo, and then like sketch it out as good as possible, or even directly without even sketching it, like starting to paint it. But that was before I bought a projector. Now I just like sketch it out directly from the projector. I wouldn't recommend this if you're like a beginner and you want to learn how to paint because you actually need to learn how to train your eye like for to recognize when the proportions are off and when they're on. So I wouldn't recommend that you start off with a projector. I would recommend that you start small and that you master like how to like take an image or even from life and then like make it into two dimensional basically. But that's how I do because it's just like in our day and age, it's just such a time saver and like the time you spend sketching and like figuring out if your proportions are right, like you have time to make a whole other painting in the meantime. So for me, it's just like a huge waste of time because it doesn't like I know that I can do it if I want to, but it's just like I don't need to do it. So yeah, that's how I do it. I just use the projector, sketch real quick. I don't go into details because I just really need to know where the eye is and how the hand sits, like, and then I just directly from there, I don't do like any underpainting either. I just go directly from like gesso to oil, like to my final painting.
Right. And with the drawing part, is that in paint or in pencil or charcoal or something like
I
that?
use a China marker basically, just because it's fine enough. Like, I don't know if you can see it, so I use that. And also after that, I just use like a transparent gesso on top of that so that it doesn't blend in with the oil, because it will blend in with the oil once if
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
don't
I
put
was gonna
that
I was gonna
layer
say
of
that
gesso.
because they're waxy,
Yeah,
really, aren't they? Those China markers.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. What do you like to paint on? You know,
Right now,
canvas, boards,
I
aluminium.
do canvas. I do canvas mostly. I used to do board, but I find I don't know, it's just too flat. There's like
Hmm.
not there's no bounce to it. It's flat, and then so I don't know. You see more the brush strokes a little bit. I like better Canva. I don't know.
You like the bounce?
Not
Yeah, I
sure
don't know.
why. Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
like the
I like the
bounce at all.
bounce.
Yeah, can't stand it.
Oh yeah.
Oh God. Um. Okay, so you were saying you don't do a grisaille. You just you're going in full color. Do you start in one kind of area and then kind of grow out like an island of color? Is that how you do it, or do you do like layers of color and build it up?
I do sections. I know. I
Sections.
know this is not even. I don't think you're even supposed to do that, but I do really sections. So like, let's say, like I'll often start with the sky, and then I'll do the sky, and I have a whole palette just for the sky. And then once I'm done with it, I put in my little freezer, and then after that, I'll work the face and like the skin basically, and then I'll have a whole other palette just for that basically.
Yeah.
And like that way, it gives also time for each things to dry, and then I work uh, on dry often. Like, so basically, I'll wait for the face to finish drying, and then I'll go on a section, on another section, and then I'll go and put in the little details once it's dried. So I'll work every section and like voyons, in rotation.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And it
Yeah.
sounds like you work from the back to the front, like the things in the background first or things that are possibly going to have things in front of them. It's just the way I always
Yeah,
think of it.
absolutely. Just like the hair is like the last thing I do because it's on top of everything basically.
Yeah.
So never start with that. It's the last thing.
Yeah. Kylie King Hazel in New Zealand says, "Oh, that's what she's written. Oh, I'm so excited for this interview. Three exclamation marks. So very excited. I love the shots you do of your palette. Can you tell us a bit about your color mixing process?"
I don't know. If I can, yeah, well, I guess for skin tones, I'll use, let me go get it. Just, I don't even know what I'm doing. I have to like read what I'm doing. So basically for skin tones, I'll use burnt sienna, basically. And then I'll mix it. I'll do like a pile of neutral burnt sienna, and then I'll do a cold pile where I put a little bit of ultramarine blue and a bit of magenta, and then I'll do a warm pile where I add like Indian yellow. And then from there, I'll do 3 rows of like from dark to light, and I'll do the neutral one, the warm one, and then the cold one. And then that's how I'm gonna be that's what I'm going to be using basically for skin tones. And then I'll put like all the primary colors, obviously, and then white, and then fluorescent pink. For some reason, I put it everywhere. So yeah, that's how I do.
Very good.
And for each section, basically, for each section, I'll like do the colors for like, let's say my phone case that I paint all the time. like I'll do a green palette basically, just for that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So your palette kind of matches the way you're painting. Like this, you're painting in sections, and you have a palette for each section. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
my little fridge is here for. I have like a pile of palettes basically that like are waiting their turn for me to rework certain sections.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's clever. And I noticed that your reference is on your iPad, and it looks like you have it in something like Procreate or Photoshop, where you can have the color picker pick out the
Yeah,
different actual color in specific areas. Is that
yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I work with Procreate. That's how I do basically my montage, my reference photos basically. So I'll put in the background, like I'll test out everything before like I actually start working with paint, and I want to make sure like that every like it's gonna look as close as possible to what I want it to look like. So yes, I do use that tool where you can like actually look what a color is basically.
Hmm.
So like when you're in like weird muted tones and you want to know like is it more magenta or is it more lavender, like you're not sure, you go and then you see like where it stands on the like the color wheel basically, which helps.
Yeah, that is so smart. Really is.
Oh, thank you.
Oh yeah, like that's going to change the way I paint, because that's one of the hardest things. Because I mean, you see it on the internet all the time. Like, what color
Mm,
is this? And it'll have one picture, another, and like the adjacent colors throw my eye off, and I think they throw everybody's
yeah.
eye off so much. And when you see the color
And
in
sometimes in
isolation,
relation, yeah, and sometimes colors in relation to another color will look completely different than what they are like accurately, basically. That's when I know that I need to use that. That's when I'm like, it's not blue. Like, and then it ends up being like a greener shade of gray.
yeah.
And then this is when yeah, that really helps.
Yeah, yeah. I knew that, but I never joined those two dots together. Of go, yeah. I mean, I've got Procreate. Most of my reference are on would be on my iPad anyway. So it's genius to do it that way. It's a bit like what you're saying about the projector. The amount of time I would have wasted with
Yeah.
getting confused with adjacent colors, and going, you're kind of looking back and forth, going, it's not adding
Yeah.
up.
You gotta
Why am I not
use
getting this?
Yeah, you gotta use the tools that because everybody will end up using technology. Like you gotta use the tools that you're giving. Like as much as you want to be a purist, like and like the world is going at a certain pace, and then if you don't catch up, like you might be left like in the back of the room. So I think that I'm always trying to use as much tools as possible, at least the ones that I can understand, to to work my way like.
Yeah. So it sounds like you get everything ready before you start. Like you do all your mixing, you have all your paint, your paint is exactly going to be right so that when you're ready to paint, it's like you're just full steam ahead kind of thing.
Yeah, but I don't do like all every sections like I don't do every palette like at the same time. I'll like every section I'll be working, I'll do the palette then.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's how I like to be prepared. I don't like to have anything left for chance, basically. I just like to have everything like yeah.
Yeah.
And since I don't work from imagination and I don't know how people do it, to be honest, like I'm really like um I really need to have all of this like figured out prior I
Yeah.
even start,
Yeah.
basically.
I don't know if you heard, I interviewed Ruprecht von Kaufmann, and his paintings are amazing, and it's all from imagination. So he's,
That's these I'm so jealous of. Like this I cannot explain like how jealous I am because like that's a whole like you don't need to do all the process I'm doing like from to go from point A to point B. You just have to use your own mind, which is unbelievable and amazing. And I wish I had that, but I don't. So I'm just gonna use the tools I have to
well,
make it
maybe you're
work.
like me. I could paint from imagination. I could paint from imagination all day long. They'd all be terrible, but I could do
But
it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That's the thing.
You know the way you were saying about your skin tones and you were talking about the colors. Do you ever use a bit of green in your skin tones?
Uh, yeah. Well, I won't like put it as like the basis for like I'll have the cold, the neutral, and then the warm. But like on my palette, basically, I'll have some greens. I'll have some like bright pink. I'll have some oranges. I'll have some cadmium red. I'll have like all the colors
Hmm.
separately, and then I'll like these. I'm gonna mix them like as I put it on the Canva. Basically, I don't
Yeah,
like
yeah,
pre-mix everything.
yeah.
Yeah,
Somebody told me about that years ago, or I saw it somewhere about adding a bit of green in, because it's counterintuitive for skin, but
yeah.
yeah, it made a big difference. I
Oh
thought it was
yeah,
great. Yeah, yeah,
I'll try that.
yeah, yeah. It sort of makes the
Yeah,
skin. It takes that pinkiness out of skin. It's like what I was saying about my
right.
mind is going, oh, skin is pink, or skin is, it
Yeah,
looks
yeah,
like
yeah,
this. And just adding a bit of green in, which is like, what? That shouldn't work. But like, oh, yeah, okay. No, it actually looks a bit more like skin.
right. Oh, I'll
Yeah,
try that maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what about brushes? Or no, hang on, let me go back a step. What about mediums? Do you have a particular medium that you like to use in your paint?
I rarely use medium, and if I do, I'll use like I'll use Liquin, this thing for
Liquid?
Liquin, Liquin Original from Windsor and Newton for like glazing, but like that's pretty much it. And I don't necessarily do a glaze on every painting. I'll just do it like if I feel like it needs it. But actually, I should be glazing much more just because it's just like there's so much depth and like the blacks get like so much blacker. But no,
Yeah,
otherwise I
the
don't
fact that
use
you let
anything.
them dry as well really lends
Yeah,
itself to glazing as well. Because some
yeah,
artists,
yeah,
they
yeah,
just like, they're just, they move at a pace and everything stays wet all the time pretty
yeah,
much. But if you're letting it dry,
yeah,
yeah, glazing would work
yeah.
lovely with your.
I do that often for the skin, and I'll try to do it all the time with hair, just because it like hair is so hard actually to paint. It's like my least favorite part of the painting. I just find it so annoying just because like if you miss like if your brush stroke is like too thick, then like you came like over like other layers of paint that you can't like fix then, and it's just like it's very stressful for me.
What brush do you use for
Yeah,
hair?
I use like a tiny little, I try to go like as fine as possible, so I'll use like a long um hair and
Oh,
like
yeah.
very long and skinny basically. That's what
Yeah, a
I'll
rigger.
use.
Yeah, I use that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, they're great for that. What other kind of brushes? Do you have a preference for brushes? Like I like
I
rounds, I
don't
like
have a
flats, or
brand. I like flats. I only work with flats basically. I flats and like tiny little um don't really know what the term is, but like just these long ones like that. I don't know if you know what they are.
that looks like just a long round. It's not a
Just a
rigger. It's
long
not a
round.
full rigger. Yeah.
Yeah, but like that's what it looks like basically. It's all flats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't use round like because I go on like very thin layers, so I don't want a lot of paint to collect on the tip. So I think that's why I use that.
Yeah. And you were talking about all your little palettes. What are they? Are they wooden, or are they perspex or glass or?
Okay, so basically I use because I have so many of them. I use disposable like it's basically sheets. But to mix the colors, I use like there's a big like glass tabletop that I have that I do
Okay.
all my mixing on, and
And
I'll transfer it on the palette.
and do you have a color under the glass?
No, it's just it's just okay. So I have like a gross like industrial thing where like I used to have like a lot of No, I don't use, there's just like a big paint mess under there, basically.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not even neutral. I guess, I guess maybe I should do a neutral background, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
some people
didn't.
like to have it white, and then there's other people that like to have a grey under the glass.
Yeah.
It sort of
Yeah,
helps
but
with
I
the helps
understand
them.
why like all my um when I started painting, it's never like I never work on white because you'll have a tendency to make everything too pale. So I like to go like to work on gray or bluish gesso basically, so
Mm.
that I don't I don't tend to go too pale. And if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
work on black, you're gonna end up working too dark. So like somewhere in the middle is actually ideal for me at least.
Yeah. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, God, I'm really enjoying this podcast. I've listened to a few now and they're brilliant. And there's so many of them. And I've learned so much from listening to them. And you know what? If I met that John Dalton fella in real life, I'd love to buy him a cup of tea and have a chat with him. I'd love to do that every month if I could. Well, now you can. The tea part at least, because this podcast runs on cups of tea bought for me by people like you who listen to the podcast and send me the price of a cup of tea once a month through the Patreon account. That's patreon.com/John Dalton Gently Does It. All one word. And if you're one of those people who already send me cups of tea through Patreon, thanks a million. The tea is lovely and I really appreciate it. Now, the great thing is that if you can't afford to send me the price of a cup of tea or you don't want to, that's fine. You still get exactly the same podcast for free. It's sort of an honor system where the people who can afford it and want to pay for the people who can't or don't want to. So it's all lovely. So if you'd like to send me a cup of tea once a month, you can do that through Patreon. I'd really appreciate it. It makes a huge difference to me. So, how do you check yourself as you're working? You know, like some artists, they'll use mirrors a lot. Others will turn the canvas upside down, or they'll be back and forth,
Yeah.
squinting, getting their friends in to give them a little feedback. What sort of things do you
I'll
do?
I'll turn it around if I have it like trouble with a section. Let's say like the veins on a hand will often like my brain won't necessarily understand it, and it will like it's as if like it will tell me that it knows how it is, but it doesn't because it doesn't work on the canvas. So then I'll flip it around and then it's as if I'm painting it now without knowing it, basically, once you do that. So that I like to do for sections that like I'm just like not
When you say turn it around, do you
not
mean
like
upside down or
upside down.
yeah, okay,
Or it
right.
depends, like let's say it depends like how the shadow hits. Like if the shadow hits a certain way and I know that I'm struggling with the way the shadow hits, I'll turn it like 180 degrees. Or it depends, it just depends. I'll turn it until it works basically. Or that, or I like to actually use my phone and then look from the camera, look how it actually looks on camera, and then like let's say for the skies, especially for the skies, just because the camera picks up something else than your eye will. So like if it looks good on camera, it will most likely look good at in the end. And also just because like all the art now is consumed on people's phones. So if it looks good on your phone, it should be all right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Have you heard the tip about veins and shop cloths? Do you know what a shop cloth is? I didn't.
No, I don't.
I think it's like what they use. I think it's just a soft kind of cloth that they use in
Okay.
workshops or something like that. And
Okay.
what this I can't remember who it was. I want to say Patty Waterwood, but I'm not sure. She was saying you sort of paint the veins and then you sort of go over them. You dab on with this cloth, and
Okay.
she was saying it makes it so easy. Then rather than trying to paint that kind of hint of
Right.
a vein, it's like you paint it on like normal. You get the direction
Yeah.
right, and then you sort of go over it with this shop cloth, and and
But
it
it
blurs
depends
it
what the
in.
back. Oh yeah, but it might depend on what the background color is, no? I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's more just she was saying it just was a really quick way. I've used it a little bit, not that much, and yeah, I was
Okay.
surprised at how effective it was. But she was saying it
Oh
just gets
yeah.
over that difficulty of creating a sort of out of focus vein because it's under the skin, you know. She was saying just this,
Yeah.
the,
Yeah,
the
veins
shot
are
cloth
hard.
just blurs it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your varnishing preference?
I rarely varnish because I don't have time to do so basically because most likely the piece will sell within less than 6 months and I don't actually have time to varnish them. If I do have time, I'll use like a ultra gloss varnish. I don't put a lot of thought into that actually. I'm not doing my homeworks properly. But yeah,
Right. Is that because you want to wait for them to dry?
well, you need 6 months for it to be safe to not crack,
Yeah,
basically,
a lot of
when you
artists use
varnish them.
yeah, Gamvar. Have you heard of that stuff?
I don't know it. I buy all
Yeah.
my supplies from this little Montreal like paint shop, which like looks like a shop like there would be like in Harry Potter, basically. So it's very like it's so nice and it has all the little like it has everything and it's super small and has like anyways, it's just gorgeous. I'll send you the link, but it's called the Cama Pigment. That's where all my oil paints are actually from. They're just they're just the best actually. Like everything else just doesn't cut it for me.
And
I
that they
just really
make
like
their
the
own.
stuff.
That's their own brand of
They
paint. They make the paint
that's
there, do
their
they? Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
very, very Harry
And
Potter.
they make those really cool like fluorescent pigments too, which I love working with. And they just like they're really, really good.
I haven't used Gamvar, but I'm told reliably that you can use it once the paint is touch dry. So you can varnish
What
it
is that?
varnish. It's
Oh
it's it's
yeah.
a it's a varnish. Yeah, it's called Gamvar, and I
Oh
think you can
yeah.
get it. You can apply it with the brush, but I think you can also apply it with like an aerosol. I could be wrong on the
I would be
aerosol
too
thing.
scared, I think, because I've had some painting like crack from like applying too quickly, and I would just be too scared. Because
Yeah,
then the whole like the 100 hours you put on a painting has just gone to like
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
What kind of lighting setup do you have in your studio?
So I have a big like me. Okay, so basically I'm facing the the windows, but I never have direct light in my studio, which is great because you don't want to have direct light because it's gonna mess up the way you paint actually. You always want to have some sort of like neutral, constant light, and I have that, and I also have like a long like a neon basically,
Yeah,
which is basically always on, almost always on, but especially during the winter, just because like you can't rely on natural light here, at least in the winter.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you listen to, if anything, when you're painting?
So I recently discovered that I really need always like some sort of background uh noise, not noise, but like music or something. Sometimes I'll do audiobooks. Sometimes that's when I feel really smart. Sometimes I'll do podcasts, uh, but mostly just music. But the thing is, like, it's hard to like curate your own like playlist all the time and not get sick of it. So, like, I'll try to like find new music and then I'll put that on. But yeah, I do work better if there is some sort of background noise. It's as if like my brain gets bored with silence. And it's not like so when like it's not like I'm thinking about the colors I'm putting on like and I have an internal chatter about like what I'm doing. I don't you come to a point that you don't think anymore, so that you need some sort of entertainment, not to like want to just do something else, you know?
Yeah,
So music does it for me, podcasts and audiobooks. Audiobooks are great just because you can learn while you're actually being super productive, which is like a bit of a like it's a good thing to do actually. Very there's very few jobs I think that you could actually learn. something and also do some work,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
How do you name your paintings?
so the names actually come to me like I'll think about it, but I won't think about it too much. So if the name doesn't come, I'll just wait for it to come. But it's always like in the back of my head when I'm painting the painting. Like if there's a word that like triggers something, I'll write it down and I'll put it on my easel. But it might not be the title in the end because sometimes I'll read a book and then I'm just like, okay, that says exactly what I wanted to say about like this painting. So it just depends. I just like it when there's like I will never title my work like untitled. I don't do that. I don't like I get that you want that you could do that because it's hard to actually name paintings, but I find that my paintings are just so there's like so narrative, not anyways. They just say a lot that like not titling them is like a bit like I don't know. It takes off a dimension in the work, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, how does that fit with the Bible references?
I don't know. I just find it something really fun to play with. Not that I'm poking fun at religion or anything. I actually like I wasn't raised religious, but I find there's so much in it. Like there's so much like symbols and like it just means so much even for people who are not religious. Like as soon as you're confronted with like a religious image, you'll know what it's supposed to mean. So in that sense, like it's actually it's a good tool to want to like to be able to say something without necessarily saying it. So you can use symbols that exist in everybody's subconscious to actually bring it to life, to bring something else, some other meaning to life, basically, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, you're using like cultural things
Yeah,
that are in the culture that everybody can is familiar with.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, I think it's Devon McDonald on Instagram says, "What are some of the ways you challenged yourself as an artist that helped you grow?"
Okay, that's a hard question because you need to get rid of your fear of like you need to not care about pleasing anymore, which is a really hard thing to do. And you need to let go of like your own concept of what art should be and then just do whatever you feel that is right for you to do. So that was that was the biggest challenge I actually had to like come over in my career just because like most artists will get stuck there actually and never actually cross that just because it's so hard to get rid of all those fears of like fear of judgment, fear of like failing, fear of all that. And but it's really the one thing you need to get rid of is the fear. And then also changing mediums was also like big for me. Like I was working with acrylics for like 10 years and then I was just like, okay, like I think I reached a point where like this is I topped what I was able to do with acrylics. And that's why when I switched to oils, it was like my paintings were so like bad when I first started with oils just because it's such a like it just doesn't act the same. Like and but once I got a hold on it, like this is when like things started like to really get good actually. So do something that you're scared of and also get rid of your fears. It's contradictoire. Anyways,
Yeah.
it's ironic.
Yeah, it is. It is a paradoxical kind of thing because on the one hand, you do. like you paint so that other people will see them, but then you, on the other hand, you can't be influenced by the fact that other people are seeing them.
Yeah, you can't think of what other people will think of it. You really just have to tap into what excites you. Like what makes you giggle, like what makes you laugh, like or what like triggers you. Like and just focus on that. Like the people who actually will be able to receive those paintings will find you. Like that's literally how it works. Like you can think of the people that you have now today that are following you that are just like, oh, but like that's weird. Like I don't know. You have to, if it means losing those people to speak your own truth, basically you'll have to lose them. But then a new bunch of people will come around and like these are the ones who will like recognize that you're speaking from like truth and like full recognition of yourself, basically.
Yeah. Robert Alexander Quinn in Montreal says, "What's your favorite part of the creative process, and what's your least favorite part of the creative process, and why?" And then he has a heart emoji, a
Um,
fire emoji, and "kill it" with an exclamation mark. Maybe you know him, do you?
yeah, I think he's been following me for a while. Yeah. Okay, so what's my least favorite part? Okay, my
What's your
least
your
favorite part.
what's your favorite
I'm gonna
part
start
and
with
your least favorite part? Yeah.
Okay, I'll start with the negative. Like the least favorite part is basically when you're in the middle of it, like, and it's just like you gotta get it done with. Like the starting is great because then you get excited about it. So like shooting, doing the photo work, and then like like sketching it on the Canva. But like everything in between, like the execution is like a little bit less exciting just because it's very robotic. It's just like, well, you need to get it done with. And then the most exciting part is obviously like finishing it and getting like and just having people excited about the work once you post it and everything. And like so that's the most exciting part. Yeah. But I guess but you really gotta learn how to enjoy every part of it, even if like it gets hard as fuck sometimes because like there's just a section that you're really, really struggling with or anything. But you gotta enjoy, you gotta recognize that this part is like meant your to push you as like as a creative basically. So but you really got to learn how to enjoy the whole process actually. But I guess it gets boring like after like 60 hours of like working on the same painting. You just want to get it done with, but you know that you can't skip that process because then it's just going to be botched. So you got to enjoy every moment of it, I guess.
Yeah. Evan Lilly on Patreon, thanks for the tea. Evan says, "Do you think more painters should address controversial issues?"
No, I don't think so. I think you should just do more painters should just do exactly what resonates with them. I don't think that you have actually a responsibility to like to be political or address social issues in your work. I think that it's great if you do so, if you feel a call for it, but I don't think it should be forced or it should be imposed on artists. Like artists are basically just a reflection of the world. And some artists will paint flowers and like, but they'll paint them like in a way that will make you cry and that will teach you something about yourself and like, so it no, you should just do whatever feels right for you, I think.
Very good. I agree. Um, how do you deal with self-doubt?
Oh my God. I thought I was done with that part of myself. You're never done with it. That's the thing. You gotta integrate it. Basically, you gotta know that it's always in the back of your head somewhere, and it will resurface whenever you're confronted with something that triggers it, basically. So you just gotta accept that it's there. You gotta recognize it though, and then you gotta you feed it what it wants, and then you tell him to go to sleep, and then and then you go on with
Hang
your
on,
life. You
hang on.
can't let it.
How do you feed it what it wants? How do you do that?
you feel you hear what it has to say, and then you observe it, and then you say, okay, you told me. Now you can go back to where like you belong, which is like not in my constant thoughts, like not in my internal chatter, not in my daily routine, basically. You can appear whenever you need to say something, I'll hear you out, but then go back to sleep. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that's very wise. Very wise.
Oh, thank you.
Um, so I was very struck by your artist statement, which I thought was brilliant. It's truth over ego, growth over comfort, and spirits over prestige. Um,
Oh, it is
can
pretty
you?
clever. I haven't read it in so long. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Thank
Um,
you.
can you elaborate on it, or is there anything else you can say about it? It's so
Well, I
good.
just think, I don't know. I think it's a good line because it's like three things. I think uh, it's good because of that, but it's also because you got it. All the things that you will overcome will actually be your strength. So everything that it comes from insecurity, you gotta like work through it and then just be the opposite of what that insecurity is, basically. I think that makes
Yeah,
any sense.
yeah. The truth over ego. That was very clear. Growth over comfort. Yeah, that's clear as well. Spirits over prestige. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I
Prestige.
just like that. That's quite
So it's
intriguing.
about so that's about not caring about the outcome and like enjoying the process, I think. Just like enjoy yourself, and as long as you enjoy yourself, you shouldn't care about the end result, basically. You shouldn't care about what this will do to your career. You should really just think about what makes you happy. So like if it brings you joy, then ultimately it will you will have made it in that sense.
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
what it means.
Very, very good. Okay, so you were talking about your daughter. A lot of artists who listen have kids, and it's a question for them of like any kind of practical tips you use to balance being a parent and being an artist.
Ah, it's a hard one. Like I don't think there is any way. There's no one way to do either of these things. There's no right way to be a parent, and there's no right way to be an artist. I think each and every person will navigate this differently. And as long as you're willing to take accountability and like work through your issues and your like shadow basically in both things, in parenting and in art, I think you should be all right. But like um I'm not sure how to answer that, to be honest. I think like on a like more like um concrete level, like working as an artist and like having like before you make it as an artist like and can actually pay your bills with it, you'll have to find ways to like feed your family. That way for me was like to work in restaurants and bars and everything so that I could work very little hours for the money that I would bring in, but it was very, very tiring. But so then I could work like 3 days a week and then have the 4 other days just to paint. So that's how I juggled my way through that. But I think that, I mean, if you want to be an artist and if you want to be a mom or a dad or whatever, a parent, just like go for it. Don't let other people's limiting beliefs like get in your way. Like there's this artist here in Montreal that like Corneau, her name is, and there's this documentary that they released like a few years back. And I had my daughter then, and like all she kept on repeating was, and she passed like maybe a few years ago. All she kept on repeating was how she regretted not having kids because she couldn't have kids because she wanted to pursue an art career. And I was just like, well, that's, like, ouch. And I was like, okay. But like, yeah, don't, there's no one way to do life. Just like do whatever you want in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have the energy for it, if you think you can do it, just do it.
What you were saying about going into your shadow, can you expand on that a little bit? Because that's a very interesting perspective.
That's a broad. I feel like there's a lot of part of ourselves that we have trouble laughing at, and you gotta go there and see it and like laugh at it and like be okay with laughing at it, because like not being able to see your darker self means that anything anyone says can ultimately destroy you, and it's not a place you want to be in, especially if you're an artist. You got to be able to just take it when people will be mean to you, like, and it's fine. And when people are mean to you, it's basically just a reflection of how they feel about themselves. So you really got to go in and like integrate all those darker parts of yourself that you're not keen to like want to laugh at or even accept. And I think once you're able to do so, this is when like it's gonna appear in the work, and it's gonna appear like your life is just gonna improve, because then nobody can say or do anything to you that you haven't already told yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a, yeah, so it's a good place to be in, basically.
Yeah, that's very wise because people can put a lot of energy into covering things or trying to cover things, cover up those parts that they feel a bit embarrassed about or they feel they need to hide.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if you do that, you're freeing up a lot of energy.
yeah. And it's also like put those parts in the work. Like it's actually hilarious. Like there's no like my favorite people are the people who can actually laugh at themselves. Like it's no fun to be around someone who can actually like take a good look at themselves, for what they are. And I think it's crucial in the process of like being an artist is to be able to see yourself for what you are,
Yeah.
and not
That's
only
well,
not only like under a good light, basically.
yeah. Yeah. Not just artists. I think everybody
Yeah, everyone. Yeah,
benefits from it. Yeah.
absolutely. But art is the one, like it's one of these things where like it will reflect directly. You can be an accountant and not do that and still make it as an accountant. But I feel like if you want
Yeah.
to make it as an artist, you need to address these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. What's the last piece of art you bought?
That's a Zoltan. It's in my kitchen. I can show you. I can send you the link. I don't know why we're on podcast. People don't see it,
Yeah.
but
No one can see your phone.
I know. But so it's Zoltan Vivaiti. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but he's a Montrealer, and I just really love what he does. It's so absurd and yet so real. There's every component that painting should have is in it. There's absurdity, there's realism, there's like, I don't know, it just has a way to do that. Like that, if I was trying to paint like that, I would not be able to. And I like that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the last piece I bought.
Ah, very good. And that was a painting. Yeah, like a
Yeah.
canvas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my desert island question. Right. So you're on a desert island. There's no one around and no one's coming. Your food and your shelter are taken care of, so you don't have to give any time to that. And there's any kind of art supplies that you would like are there. Do you still paint even though no one's ever going to see what you paint?
Well, I paused for a really long time. That's a terrible question, but like excellent, but soul crushing question. I think I would have to like do something with my brain And painting does help me make sense of reality. So in a sense, think I would, but I don't know how I like who I would be if I was on a desert island. That's the thing. It's a hard question. Uh, I don't think I could say a hard yes or a hard
Yeah.
no. It's a
Um,
maybe.
well, there's another part to it. If you did paint, do you think you'd paint the same kind of paintings that you're painting now?
Well, if I'm on a desert island, like what do I don't have access to the internet. So I would have to work from life. So I would probably paint the island. Like that's I would do landscape. I would be a landscape artist.
Yeah, well, that's a very practical answer. What I'm getting at though is without an audience,
Yeah.
without that part of the equation, if you like, would you
Yeah.
still paint the same kind of paintings that you're painting now?
I see what you're doing. But I okay, so but on a technical point of view, I wouldn't be able to because I would only be painting myself because that's the only image I could have of someone. But if I could, if I had like my reference pictures and everything,
Yeah, every week
I
a box would wash
I
up on the shore with
probably
reference images in it.
reference. Okay, yeah. So then I think I would still do that because in a way, like my work is about I'm exploring like myself. Like all these women are basically not me, but like they're somewhat me. So I probably would, or maybe I would just like maybe end up just painting myself because like if there's no one to see it except for me, then I don't have to hide behind other people to say what I want to say, basically, if that makes any sense at all. I think I would do auto portraits, probably.
Self portraits.
Not
Okay,
narcissistic at all. Self portraits, yeah.
very good. If there was one main underlying theme to all your work, what do you think it would be?
Oh my God. I think the discovery of self. I think that's pretty much it. Every time I've looked back at my work from like a few years ago, I can always understand it like super clearly. But while I'm in it, I I'm not sure actually what I'm talking about. It's really just a few years after that I'm just like, oh my God, that's what I was processing. That's the inner work I was doing. So yeah, getting to know the self basically, I think that's where it all comes down to.
Very good. Jason Silo on Patreon. Thanks for the tea, Jason says. How is living in Montreal for you as a painter? How's the art scene? Are the winters hard for you? And if so, is there anything you do to stay positive through these times?
Winter it's hard, but like I meditate every day. I have like I do my own thing and I let it pass. Obviously, I would love like living somewhere warmer, like, but I guess it serves me right now. Like Montreal is a great city because rent is cheap. There's a good art scene. People are really cool in this city, actually. Like you just can get inspired by like going to that club and like seeing like people just being people. And I think that's what I enjoy about this city. It's very like free and like people get really excited in the summer actually just because like we came out of the winter and there's like this whole energy about it. Um, so yeah, ultimately like if I could choose to either like live in the south of Italy or now I would go live in the south of Italy if it was just like super easy. But yeah, no, at some point I'm for sure gonna move out of this city. Not because I don't like it, but just because I think it's just another way to challenge yourself, actually.
Yeah. I am dystopia on Instagram says, how did you make your way through contemporary art with your figurative style?
I didn't think about it. That's the thing. I think like when I started doing portraits, like it wasn't a thing even when I started. I just like decide like I just painted what I felt like painting actually and make my way. I don't think there's a clear answer to that. Like I think the only way to make your way into any kind of career is just really to just listen to your intuition and just like really be in tune with what you want to do. But I don't think there's a formula for that. I mean, if there was, everybody would be, uh, every art student would be a success. Like, but yeah, no, there's no one way to do things. I just think it really comes from inwards.
Yeah. So how did that actually go for you? How did you start selling and what were the beginning stages? Because you've
Well,
got a gallery in New York, I think, isn't it? And then another one in Germany, and so
I mean, I don't really work with my gallery, neither in New York or Germany. Like, I'm still in good uh, terms with them and everything. But like, I work mostly right now with Mortal Machine, which is in Louisiana, and I work with my gallery here in Montreal, Station 16. Um, but the thing is, like, I've had no galleries representing me for like the longest time. Like, I was not represented by any galleries in my city, like until 7 months ago, actually. So I was just all like, I just focused on my social media, what I could do. Like, I gave myself solo shows. I was like, let me rent a space and do everything from scratch. And that's how I did it, basically. I just didn't wait for a permission. Um, and then the galleries are like just like contacted me at some point. They just came to me, and I think that's the way it should be. Because if it like if you go to a gallery, they will not. Maybe they'll be like, okay, let's try it out. But if they're doing that, they might not see themselves selling you as an artist. But what you want is having a gallery that like sees your work and is just like, oh my God, we can sell that. Let's get in touch with that artist. Like, so I think that's how it's done, basically. I wouldn't recommend like, well, I don't know. At least for me, that's how I see it.
yeah. And you sold mostly through Instagram, was it?
Yeah, like all my career was that, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Facebook,
And what
not anymore, but like beginning, yeah. But like now TikTok also is like helping a lot. But yeah, mostly Instagram.
and was did that just happen organically, or did you do things specifically to encourage people to buy?
Well, like nowadays, like I'll do some ads and everything just because it's good to have a little bit of growth here and there, but I don't mainly focus on that. I think that the growth really has to come organically for it to be worth it because, yeah, there's not much you can do. You can't really force people to like what you do. And I don't know.
Yeah. Um, what sort of price range are your paintings selling for at the moment?
Right now, they're selling between, say, 4 and 9,000 about.
That's Canadian dollars, is it, or US dollars?
Uh, that would be like that would be Canadian. I never really go above 10,000 Canadian, so the range is basically USD.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
And do you know where like most of your collectors are located?
Yeah, they're mostly in the States. There's a few like in Germany, Mexico, Australia. They're not here though. They're not in Montreal for some reason. I don't know. I think they're scared of me. I don't know. I'm joking. But yeah, no, very few originals, at least lately. In my beginnings, yeah, mostly Montreal, but ever since like maybe 2020, it's mostly abroad
Yeah.
or in the States. Yeah.
Do you have a big art dream you'd like to achieve before you die?
Oh, I never talk about that because then I would mean I would jinx myself. You don't share those secrets. That's my secret actually, is to never jinx myself and share my secrets. Yeah.
All right. What's the biggest challenge you're facing at the moment as an artist?
Ah, it's an ongoing challenge, but it's the self-doubt. It's always in the back. So as soon as you don't sell a painting for like a month or two, you're just like, oh, so I guess I'm just irrelevant now. Like it's always there. It's always gonna creep back. Like, so that's the challenge that will always exist, I guess, the self-doubt. So yeah, that's it.
Very good. Okay, this is my last question. I ask this to everyone who comes on the podcast. If there's one thing you could pass on to future generations, what would it be?
Ah. But from what perspective? As like an artist or as like a person?
Either, whichever.
Oh my God. Is ah, is the wisdom to know yourself, basically. That's if I had one thing I could, like a universal truth, I would like just tell everyone and anyone would be just like get to know yourself. And that's pretty much because that's all there is basically. When you know yourself properly, you're able to know others way better because if you know every little inch of you, you're able to know where this person's insecurity comes from, where like, and then you're able to be much more compassionate. You're just able to be a better person, I think. And that also applies with art and work or anything in general. You'll just have an easier way navigating life, I think, if you know yourself properly.
Yes, very good. Very wise.
Thank you.
Okay, well, look, I think your paintings are fantastic. Like, technically, they're excellent. But then the content and the message, not so much the message, but there's they're multi-layered. There's a lot of depth to them. And I really appreciate the humor that you get into them, both
Thank you.
in the visually, but then also the names, and then sort of looking at the names, then looking back at the painting, and kind of there's a because some of
The
them are a
social
little bit,
commentary.
yeah, some of them
Yeah.
are a little bit shocking, but then you sort of read the name, and then you can kind of go, oh, it's not what it looks like. There's a depth
Yeah,
to it there.
exactly.
I like your choice of colors as well, and
Thank
and
you.
nobody asked you about your style, but they're very distinctive. Like, I think I could pick your paintings out in a lineup. Like, you've got a very distinct style as well, which just even being able to do that is hard enough to have a consistency in it. And some of the things that you're saying in some of the commentary, as you said, is very insightful, I think. So yeah, all
Thank
in
you.
all, lovely, lovely work. I really like it. And it's been lovely chatting with you and kind of hearing what's gone on behind what leads to those paintings.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the hardest part for me is like how to explain it in words. That's why I'm a painter basically, because I don't have to explain myself that much. But yeah, it's been great and thank you so much for having me. It was like very nice.
Oh, my pleasure. So I keep in touch with everybody for
Yeah.
Zoom tea or coffee. So I'm sure we'll keep in touch. But yeah, we'll say goodbye for now.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
I've never felt this good in my entire life. Make me some spaghetti.
Actually, I'd prefer a cup of tea. A cup of tea would be lovely. So, yeah, just a little reminder, mainly because every second or third person who becomes a patron has got in touch with me and said, you know what, I've been listening to your podcast for ages and I didn't become a patron, not because I don't have the money, not because I don't think it's great, I just didn't get around to it. So this is a little friendly reminder that if you'd like to be a patron, you'd like to buy me a cup of tea, go to patreon.com/John Dalton, gently does it, all one word, or follow the link in the show notes to become a patron. I would really appreciate it if you could do that, particularly if you've been meaning to and you just haven't got around to it. It would be great. It would mean a lot to me. All right, thank you. Bye.
We are the Argyle Pimps, so buy us a drink. We're better than you thought, but not as good as we think. We are the Argyle Pimps, so buy us a drink. Come on, buy us a drink. Come on, buy us a drink. We are the Argyle Pimps, so buy us a drink. We're better than you thought, but not as good as we think. We are the Argyle